Hello, class. This is Marcos, and this is your Week 10 briefing for the upcoming Week 10 as we continue on our independent projects. I wanted to give you a quick review of what you should be concentrating for your workflow this week so that you stay on track and that you have a productive week and that we can meet together and review things over the coming class periods and be able to have you in the right place. So here's just a quick review of what the next steps are. We've spent the last week creating a research deck that was built upon our initial choosing a cause deck that created some information that was helpful to us understanding our brand, from looking at competitors to looking at kind of a general vision of what you want your brand to be about and how you might implement some of the ideas that will help have the effect of making good positive change from your brand. And we're going to build on that even further this week. We're going to take the sort of broad vision you had of your brand strategy and start to focus it even more clear in a statement that defines your brand strategy. You can choose to develop some brand values as well and kind of overall create the foundation for what defines your brand in a communication way. And then we're going to get into the idea of naming your brand and creating what is the right kind of verbal communication, written communication. This is an important aspect of your independent project in terms of how you build the basis for what you're trying to do. And this is also kind of a little bit difficult and tricky. It may not be, maybe it comes easier for you, but basically this idea of using words effectively in a design framework is what I want you to focus on and take that seriously in terms of the effectiveness it could have. Like the right name could make all the difference. So once we have a kind of a strategy and a name, we want to create a design personality mood board that begins to showcase in visuals, photography mostly, kind of the look and not the look and feel, but the feeling of your brand in terms of what kind of personality it will have, keeping in mind your target audience. You may also want to adjust your target audience at this point if you've looked back at what you did last week, if things are evolving and if we talked about maybe focusing on a specific audience, or if your whole idea has changed in some way. Of course, you should adjust the previous portions of your presentation so that you have everything up to date and that you're creating a brand strategy and a design personality based on the changes we talked about. And then it's going to I want you to begin to do research on creating a design inspiration mood board. And this mood board could be based on a couple of things. One, it could be based on just getting inspiration for how you want to approach your logo. You may want to make a mood board that's specifically for a logo inspiration. And then just overall the design inspiration for your brand overall in terms of a fuller breadth of what the design could be about in terms of not just the logo, but how you use typography, colors, photography, shapes, textures, whatever it is that you think would help communicate your brand to begin to build kind of a toolkit for what you're going to do for your design in the coming phases. So I want to just showcase an example of what this assignment looks like, continuing to use our suicide, mental health in South Korea project example that we've had since the beginning of this. And for this section, basically, this is a example of a strategy page that actually came from last week that you may have done already. And here it's asking questions, this is sort of the brainstorm strategy level. For what you're doing this week, I want you to take a little further and build on this sort of more stream of conscious index of lists of things you want to do. And instead, I want you to begin to write it more formally. And I'll show you another example in another deck coming up. But in this specific case, this strategy wasn't fully fleshed out. It was still kind of broad and open. And that's okay too, but I would prefer that you begin to evolve this idea a little more formally, and I'll show you that in example. But here on, after you have that kind of worked out, it becomes an idea of presenting the name. In this specific student's deck for this week, the name was figured out to be a single, definitive name. You don't necessarily have to be at that point. You could have several ideas at this point, and we can discuss them in your individual meetings coming up. But in this case here, this is sort of the resulting name, and it has a little bit of a text that provides what it is the name means and why it's a good choice and the strategy behind the name. And at this point, it shouldn't be a design of the name. It should just be the letters in a presentation typography. Don't begin to design it as tempting as it might be. Just make it about the word itself in a general way. And then it's about building the design personality in terms of using photography and using kind of brand values. So there's a set of 4 values here in some photography. I'm not going to say that this is a brilliant showcase of what this could be like. I think we can all do better than this. So I'm showing this as an example of what was done in the past, but I think really trying to showcase photography and a set of words and maybe even a statement about the personality, but to begin to take on this idea of what is the brand personality. And then the design inspiration, like beginning to collect specifics that start utilizing how design elements are used to communicate and how you want to build on your personality and through design overall for the brand. And here in this case, she chose to do some inspirations on what the logo might be built around using a design board just specifically for the logo. And then in her case, she kind of brought back in the idea of the applications that we had done last week and just put it into this portion of the presentation, talking about the vision of what she wants to do. So it's about now beginning to formalize these ideas deeper based on what we talked about last week in your meeting, if we did talk about that, and begin to kind of like make that list of strategies and the program that you want to develop and the different aspects, thinking about your audience and how you might want to target audiences in different ways, in different venues and different mediums. And then a mood board that represents that application strategy, which again, this was built on what she had last week, but she built more into it to broaden it more based on the conversation we had after last week. And then of course, have your thank you page. But just to share with you a little bit of another alternative look at one of these. This is an example of oh boy, what's happening here? This is an example of a student's project on sleep health. And these are just the pages for this week, so it's a little easier to see here. So brand strategy, it's about writing down a list of intentions of how you want your brand to communicate, what you want it to be about, how you want to connect to your audiences, and how you wanted to approach the cause that you're trying to affect change in. In this case, there was not a definitive name yet, but there was a list of five candidates for names. And if I recall correctly, we even pared this down to, I think, 3, and even did some designs in next week's project, which is about the logo design and didn't have the name fully selected, but designed around different names. So that's another choice you can do too. You can have more than one name and you can take it to the design phase before you decide what your name is. So again, this is kind of a fluid project. You can know what your name is for sure, and we can have that done, or you could be kind of building on that at this point. And then she had a design personality page followed by a design inspiration page and a thank you page. So this kind of shows in a quick way, just what you're doing this week. And you can do more, of course, but I know these are simple pages to show, but there's actually a lot of work involved here, particularly in the naming and in the strategy. And then just to show you one more, if I can find it here, a different example that's also kind of a simple example is this project here on climate change. And this deck summarized the issue, talked about specifically climate change in the UAE, which was the focus of this person's project. This kind of represents the idea of showing statistics and then the goals for the project. Here she kept in the different case studies, and then a target audience page. And then here's where we're getting to what we're doing this week, which is creating a brand strategy. And in this example here, you're going to see sort of this bullet point effort that represents what we should have been doing last week in terms of thinking about the strategy. And then to create kind of like this almost mission statement, create a cafe to have coffee through a natural experience in order to be inspired and motivated to raise more awareness to climate change, having a positive approach in branding. This cafe will remind us of the beauty of the earth, by using coffee as a symbol because life begins after coffee. So this begins to give more of a direct language from the brand to the customer, as opposed to the strategy written out here more in an outline form. So this is sort of an effective way to do it in two ways. And then the naming here, this is not a design. This is just the name Grounded Cafe as the proposal for the name, followed by what Grounded Cafe's personality will be about and the visuals of it. And then also mood inspiration board for how to begin to approach creating the identity, the logo identity for this, and the ever so important thank you page. So that's a general idea of what we're doing. But I do want to talk about another aspect of this, and that is the way we approach, the way you're going to approach the idea of how your brand concept can work. And I want to talk about sort of these two different models that represent how you can take an idea of a brand and connect it to the needs of a social issue and the efforts to create positive change within that issue that you're trying to take on. And there's kind of like two doors you can go through to kind of get there. And I would just want to kind of outline these two models. So model one is going to be about creating a brand that addresses a social cause. So this is kind of like the more obvious approach of like, you have a brand, it's about the social cause that you're championing, and it more has this kind of like activist feel to it. So it has, there's a mission statement, there's a name, and there's a logo to the brand. It's all about that cause. It's, directly addressing what it is you're trying to do in a very direct way. And because that's what it is, kind of the main vehicle of what you want to be doing with this brand in this model one, a direct address of the social cause, you want to be creating an awareness campaign and creating communications that begin to spread a certain message about what it is you're trying to change or what it is you're trying to get people to be aware of. So if you have a certain kind of cause, you might find this model to be like the most effective. And in this model, the awareness campaign could have an ad campaign. It would, of course, have social media and PR strategies and events. And then it can even begin to evolve into the idea of merchandise and items. And within this idea of model one addressing a social cause directly, you can begin to think about like targeted programs at specialized groups. So that could mean things like brand partnerships, looking for more commercial-based brands that are out in the market that are aligned with the target audience that you're aligned with, and that may have some kind of connection to where your cause is. So that it makes some kind of a message that helps promote the values of the partner brand, the consumer brand that you have, and that you can partner up with that brand as being the social arm of that commercial brand's message. You can do industry-focused campaigns that are around a specific kind of business or certain kind of commerce, or connecting the kind of activities that are going on that relate to the problem that you're trying to solve. And you can also do a cause-related product. So this is where you begin to now take the idea of being a very direct kind of issue-oriented brand, but you can begin to bring in some of the ideas of the free market and consumerism, that you begin to create a product that can be on the market, that is a fundraising tool that connects to what your cause is about, but also gives a consumer a way to contribute by making a purchase. So the second model is kind of going the opposite way around, and that's creating a brand that meets a specific need for consumers. So it's kind of thinking more along the lines of a traditional brand, trying to create a product or a service that is within sort of the value added aspect of the consumer experience, and is connecting to what people could use in their lives that would make their human experiences better, and something that would create kind of a market reaction, consumer activity, would be able to raise money for your cause. So this is really about, if your issue is at the level where the best thing you could do for a couple of reasons is raise money. That best reason may be that you're fighting a cause that's a big cause. Let's say it's climate change, and there are already a lot of really solid charitable kind of brands and organizations out there. And your goal is more about being able to fund these efforts and be able to fund even legislation or towards where you want the government to adjust their policy towards. So if it becomes more about this kind of like fundraising thing than creating a consumer-based brand that meets the needs of customers and consumers out there, would be like an interesting way to take on making social change. So with this, again, you have the same idea of a mission statement, a name and a logo and touch points, like it's the same idea, but you're going to build a social mission program for the brand. So it's going to be a brand that sells something that people need, but has a social mission attached to it. So you think about brands like Tom's Shoes or Newman's Own products, where they sell just grocery products, food products, pizza, frozen pizza, lemonade, salsa. They sell lots of stuff, and their mission is to donate all their profits towards various programs, and they donate their own profits towards their own foundation. So Newman's Own is the grocery store brand, and they also have an organization called the Newman Foundation. So whenever I buy some juice or pizza from Newman's, I know that the profits go towards their foundation, and that foundation every year selects specific communities in need and funds different projects, from like water systems in developing countries to literacy programs and communities that have needs for that, or different kinds of charitable projects that they fund through the sale of their consumer products. And that's really the heart of this model too. And with that, you can have targeted programs from the consumer brand. So the brand itself could be like a brand like Apple, but they happen to have a very specific direct mission to do something. So again, this is something that's fairly popular, or maybe not common, but something that allows people to know that they're making a consumer purchase for something they may not even necessarily need, but want, and know that they're doing some good in the world because of the targeted programs that this consumer brand has developed. So it's on product messaging, getting them, right. The product itself is a flagship for the cause. It's an integrated ad campaign that not only promotes the brand itself or the product itself, but also the cause behind the brand. Social media, PR, public events, the same sort of platforms, and supportive programs that address the issue, like partnerships with existing charities, fundraising events, sponsorships, solution-based special projects. So this, again, can have a lot of depth in terms of being a brand that's out there, that's serving kind of a basic foundational purpose. It's, it could be fashion, it could be food, it could be a digital product, it could be anything that's sort of the kind of thing that people want or need to buy anyway, and you connect your issue or your cause into this brand's voice and message. So that's model 2. All right, so hopefully that will help you understand the kind of 2 different ways you can go, and give you more of a foundation, whether it's model 1, creating more of the traditional brand that is solely about your cause and promotes it through awareness campaigns. And as you drill down, perhaps there is a consumer product that helps promote the brand further. Or if you take the model 2 approach, where you start off as being a consumer brand, you sell something people want and need, but you have a very specific connection to the issue that you're championing, and that you're raising money for that and donating profits towards that, and then having programs that help solve that problem directly. All right, so put that together, or put together your next steps in this project, which are going to be about, I can go real quick here. It's going to be about defining your brand strategy, create naming options, or create a name. Let's decide on a name. On Tuesday, we can share these options with me, and we can help decide, and then creating a design personality mood board and creating a design inspiration mood board. And on Tuesday, what I want to do is I want to have the full day of work again, but I want to have 9-minute meetings with everybody. Everyone will get a meeting on Tuesday. It'll be more about talking about these specific aspects and brainstorming as necessary. It won't be about representing everything you presented in the past. So we'll use our 9 minutes wisely. But here's the schedule. I will be in the classroom and always love one-on-one. But if anyone is interested in being at your space, I will be on Zoom as well. Just let me know if possible so that I can kind of know who's going to be where. But here's the list, and I'll post this on Slack and I'll email it to everybody as well. But if you can be prepared to have as much of this done as possible in terms of naming options, in terms of getting a strategy more formalized, and in terms of beginning to create vision for your brand through a mood board that shows the look and feel of or a mood board that presents the personality of your brand, and then a design inspiration board that kind of showcases both design inspiration towards what your logo might look like and design inspiration for your overall brand in general. All right, so that's it for this briefing. I will see everybody on Tuesday at your individual specific times. And in the meantime, reach out to me as needed, and I will talk to you then. Thanks.